All right, so just a formal introduction. I'm Isadora Mok-Kulakova from the Taylor Institute for Teaching and Learning. You can call me Izzy. And so on the screen here, you'll see that there's my contact information. Feel free to reach out, and I'll just talk about how we also have other resources too. So for the most part, I'll be doing demos. So with that said, I'm going to turn off my webcam. Feel free to use the chat or the microphone to ask your questions or ask for clarification, and I'll try my best to answer them. And it's not the first time we're gonna talk, so feel free to keep my contact and we can continue those conversations, and I can also introduce you to my colleagues at the Taylor Institute TI. So, all right, so this is probably, I guess, the most important slide where all the resources are, a place for you to get started. If you want to just get some quick information about D2L or other learning technologies that are supported on campus. So if you've attended other workshops, you may have seen this website already, elearn.ucalgary.ca. You don't even have to go type in D2L-getting started. If you go to elearn.ucalgary.ca, I'm going to actually do that. I'll click on this first. Okay, so if you go right to the link that I provide in the slide, getting started, you will see this page here, which pretty much covers what we're going to talk about today in today's session. So how to communicate, just kind of navigation and all that. But I would say anytime you have a question about D2L or any of the campus supported tools, you can go to elearn.ucalgary.ca. Okay, and so you can go through the different categories, or you could use the search bar and do a search. So let me just give that a try. All right, so let's say if you want to look for, I don't know, troubleshooting tips, because this is something that I've added recently. So troubleshooting or tips, if you do some keyword searches, you should be able to find information. So for example, this one here, tips and tricks, how to prevent or fix common technical issues online. So we have some recommended processes. Some of them we'll talk about today, but if you're seeing that when you use D2L or other learning technologies and things aren't actually looking quite right, maybe this is a place that you can check out too. So if you go to elearn.ucalgary.ca, or if you go type in grades, we've tagged articles, so it's easier for you to pull up information. And so, or you can go through different categories. So the main campus supported tools would be D2L, Zoom, UJA, as well as Top Hat. So try this first. What I also want to mention is you can go to the D2L category and then just look at specific tools. One thing I want to mention here is that if you click on useful links, or actually before that, you'll see that you'll be able to contact IT or users quickly there. We have some important links built in. If you want to reach out to someone at the Taylor Institute, whether it's educational development consultants or instructional designers or colleagues at the Taylor Institute, feel free to just click on this, and there's a link to the copyright office. So if you have questions about copyright or let's say you have an article and you want to use it in D2L and you're not sure if you could, or if you need to get clearance, you can contact the copyright office. What I also want to mention is that if you click on useful links, there's a little chart here. And so sometimes it's my computer when I'm showing it on Zoom, it doesn't show the hyperlinks, but let me refresh that a little bit. If not, just come to useful links page, and what you'll see here is similar resources like Taylor Institute and IT Support Center, which is also called uService. But I want to mention this one here that's called Brightspace YouTube channel. So if you see reference or names such as D2L, Desire to Learn, Brightspace, they're all the same thing. So the company has rebranded the product a couple of times. So if you see D2L, Brightspace, Desire to Learn, all reference the same thing. It's a learning environment that we use at the university. So there's this one here. They have, the vendor has their own YouTube channel. So what you can do is they also have playlist here. So if you're brand new to D2L, you can also check out these videos too. It's kind of a self-help site. If you want to do a search for, let's say, they have a playlist for students too. So if you typed in learner or something, they have some information for students. So if that's too overwhelming, again, you can point students to elearn.ucalgary.ca. You'll notice that we have a section specifically for students too. So you don't have to worry about like always trying to answer those technical questions for students. You can direct them here, and if they need further support, IT can assist. Okay, so that's, I would say like eLearn may be the first place to kind of go to if you need a quick answer to something. All right, let's get back to this here. Now, in terms of like technical issues or access issues, for example, like if you have troubles logging into D2L, that might have something to do with your IT account. So in that case, reach out to U-Service, IT Support Center, and they can assist you with that. Sometimes if you have like, I don't know, something wrong with the computer as you're trying to access D2L or error messages, you can still reach out to IT. If needed, they can escalate it to the vendor on behalf of you. So that's kind of like a more, I guess, localized kind of IT support. Now, if you have the how-to questions, or like you want to organize maybe a training session for your instructors and your faculty, feel free to reach out to me, or we have a couple of other colleagues who do very similar things. Like we can have consultations with you, or if you want to just experiment further with a more advanced tool, we're happy to do that. And for the fall and winter semesters, we also have learning technology coaches. So again, they take on similar roles where they can meet with you online, test out all the learning technologies before you teach, let's say, a class of 500. So just to give you that sense of peace before you teach a semester, so you can focus on the content and don't have to worry about all the technical challenges. So, and if you want to just kind of access resources that have more to do with course design and educational development kind of stuff, you can go to the Taylor Institute Resource Library. And we've also recently added a lot of materials, such as, let's say, if like right now, many courses are online, but as we approach a winter semester, we don't know like how it's going to be. A lot of courses will be back on campus, and maybe you have like kind of half and half, like hybrid mode, where you have some students who are online, some students who are in person. So we do have some suggestions as to like, yeah, or modules on different things. So you can take a look at. So yeah, blended on online learning, that module or lesson may be relevant to you. So with all that said, I would say check out the resources when you have a moment. And this slide, if you want to just click on the links when you have a moment. So this is kind of the plan for today, some of the topics that we're going to talk about. And again, if you need further clarification, let me know, and I can maybe demonstrate. But these are kind of the basics of D2L. So if you're new to the system, I would say this should be sufficient. But if you want to explore more, again, feel free to meet with us. And we also have some workshops coming up in the new semester. It's called D2L Next Level sessions or something like that, where we talk about the more advanced tools in D2L if you're interested. So go to the Taylor Institute website to register. But yeah, so these are the things that we're going to talk about today, the common tools, frequently used tools. We have a previously recorded workshop, but it might be outdated. So I'll probably be using today's recording going forward. I'm just going to quickly talk about the login. I'm assuming that all of you have IT accounts or UFC like at UCalgary email addresses. And so if you do have an IT account at the University of Calgary as an undergrad or grad student, postdoc, or staff or faculty, the easiest way to log in would be to go to d2l.ucalgary.ca. So d2l.ucalgary.ca, you use your IT username and password. If you're a continuing education student, the login process might be a little bit different, but if you're not sure, you can contact IT. And also if you go to eLearn, if you just do a search for like login, you'll find information on how to log into D2L depending on your status. But generally it's d2l.ucalgary.ca, log in with your IT account, and then you'll probably see something like this. Now, a lot of times I get questions kind of in my administrator role, like system admin role, where people are asking, how come I don't see courses here, or like I don't see like a particular course? That could possibly be because you're using the My Courses widget and you're focusing on a particular semester where you may not have taught in, or maybe the courses at that time have been made unavailable, so you're not able to see them. But what you can do is, like, if you have a lot of courses, feel free to just kind of use the filter. Let's say for the winter 2022 semester, you can probably find it here and just like click on that particular filter. Or if you want, you can just click on show all. That way you can see all the courses that you have access to. Also, you can use this waffle icons. That's called the course selector, but it looks like a waffle. So you can, if you have a lot of courses, you can certainly do a search or just browse through your list there. That's if you've been at the university for a long time, either as a student or staff or a faculty member, and you have a lot of courses. So in that case, if you do have a lot of courses, what you can do is, let's say, for example, this particular course, let's say I want to access it a lot, I can actually just click on the pin there. And so what happens is the next time I go to here, that would be one of the courses that appear at the top. Okay. And if you think that you don't need to see it that often anymore, you don't need easy access to it, you can just unpin. So that's a quick way to access courses that you will be using frequently. Yeah, so that's kind of the just the My Courses widget and the course selector. Now, a couple of things. Let's see, and then you can filter by pinned courses. All right, so, and you'll see that sometimes if you're the instructor of the course, you'll probably see status such as inactive, or if it doesn't say inactive, it's probably active. Active just means that it's available to students. So students, if they log into D2L, the course is active, they can access it. As the instructor, even though the course is inactive, or maybe as a teaching assistant, if it says inactive, you can still go into the course to make changes. So yeah, as soon as you're assigned to teach a course, you can start building it, but you don't have to be like afraid that students will be accessing it, because there's a step that you need to kind of take before students can go into the course. And that usually would be the last step. But let's just say, for example, today, because I'm going to be doing demos and I want to kind of show you the student view, I'll make it active. So I'm just going to pause for a second. There was a question, will the course automatically become active at the start of semester? Or do we have to activate it? Very good question. So by default, all courses are set to be inactive. So you as an instructor would have to decide when you make it active. So instructors have that control. And the reason for that is because, like, some instructors would like to, I don't know, make it available earlier, but some instructors want to make it available on the first day of classes, where after they've like clarified things. So you would have to activate it so it doesn't automatically become active. So let's say, for example, today, this course is ready. Let's just assume that I have everything in there and I want to make it active, and whoever is enrolled in a class can see it. This is what you need to do. So you go to here, and then you go to course offering information. Okay, so if the course is here, you can go to course offering information, and you'll be brought into this page where it shows you the course name and the course offering code. So those things you usually don't have to change, or you can't change the code, which is a unique identifier. But anyway, so what you would need to do is, if you want to make it available to students, you have to check off this box that says course is active. Okay, so you have to check that off and click on save. Okay, and so if I do that, students will be able to see the course. So I'm just going to go back to the home page. It should yeah, so you'll see that inactive disappear. So as a student, as I go there, I'm just going to go in as a student. I should be able to access that particular course. I think this is the one that I just made active. Okay, so as a student, I can go in. Now, let me just go back to the instructor page. Let's just say, and this is an example that I used quite a bit, maybe pre-COVID, where your class is starting, I don't know, January 3rd, but you know that at that time you're going to be just by the beach in Hawaii. And so you want students to be able to access your D2L course site, but you know that you won't have access to the internet then. So what you can do is, let's just go take a different course, okay? You still go to course offering information. Now, let's say you're working in the course and you're in the course already. You can actually get to the same place, but it's just a couple more clicks. And again, these instructions will be on the eLearn site. But what you do is to go to, if you're in the course itself, go to edit course, which is kind of the control panel where you have access to more tools as the instructor. Click on edit course and there's course offering information. Okay, so again, this is, yeah, if you were on the homepage and clicking on the image, that's just a shortcut. But what you can do is you can click on courses active, and then you can specify a start date. Let's say January 3rd, let's say 9 in the morning. So I know that at that time I'll be in Calgary time, I'll be in Hawaii. So I can set, so this time is local time, so it'll be Calgary time. And then you can set that and click on save. And so on the day of, it'll be automatically available, but you have to make sure that courses active is checked. Otherwise the start date doesn't matter. Now you will notice that if you're teaching a credit course, so when I talk about credit course, usually it's like an undergrad or graduate course or a continuing education course where enrollments are usually like managed automatically. So we're talking about not I guess non-credit sites where some instructors may be using as a sandbox, or for example, sandbox is where you can test out things. So after the session today, if you want a sandbox, which is kind of a non-credit course where you're enrolled as an instructor and you want to experiment with things and not actually testing with actual students in your class, feel free to let me know and I can set up a sandbox for you. But otherwise, if you're the instructor of a credit course, what you'll see here is that the course end date is usually auto-populated for you. And the reason for that is because due to copyright regulations, students are usually not able to access course materials a year after the course's official end date. So for any credit courses, you'll probably see an end date set to something about, let's say, a year after. Okay, so if you want students to be able to access course materials after that 1 year period, you probably have to check with the Copyright Office just to make sure you have that clearance. And then at that time, you can, once you have clearance, you can extend the date. Nothing is stopping you from moving the end date earlier. So if you think that like students don't need, or there's not much in your course and students don't need access for that long, you can certainly set it to earlier. Okay, so that's for credit courses. The end date is usually auto-populated. So I'm just gonna keep it as active for now and have a start date. So when I go back to, end date is before you, okay, let's not have an end date. Not very good at math. So let's just say I close it, save it now. What happens is if I go to the view as a student, so right now I'm going back as a student, let me see where that course is. Okay, so this course, you'll see that as a student, they kind of see the start date. So here they can't click into the site, but they kind of get a date saying that it's going to start January 3rd. So at least they're not worried. Okay, when it gets closer to the semester, they can at least see that. But when it's inactive, they can't actually see it on their list. So that's kind of the difference in terms of like course availability. Okay, so let's get back to the homepage of D2L. And so you can see like as the instructor, there are these differences. This one is active. This one you can have to set the start date. This one is inactive. Okay, so while we're here, also want to mention the course banner or the image. So by default, any new courses that are created, they're randomly assigned course images. But if you think it's not relevant or you want to use your own picture, what you can do is, again, click on this here. You can go to change image. And then you can do a search. So there's a huge library with images that you can use, so you don't have to worry about copyright. D2L has kind of provided those images. So you can say chemistry and do a search. Okay, and then you can choose the stock images, or if you want, you can click on upload. So for example, in my case, I'm going to go back to this here. I have uploaded my own image. So I have my dog and the D2L moose there. I just want to bring attention to like the image itself. If you decide to choose your own image, there are a couple of things that I recommend. One is just like looking at the thumbnail here, that kind of shows you most of the image. But if you click into your course, you notice that the course banner or the image focuses on the middle third portion. So that's something for you to be aware of. If you decide to upload your own image, just kind of make sure that the middle part is the most important information, because that's what's being displayed in D2L. So I would say don't worry about the dimensions or anything. Just upload an image and see if it looks good. If not, then you can try adjusting or upload a different image. Also, I would suggest try to avoid like having too much text or any text in your image, because you'll see that by default it shows the course title. So if you have text within your images, they could like overlap. So in this case, I guess it's okay, but like if you have a lot of text, then it may not look very nice. So that's kind of the thing if you want to upload your own image. So yeah, so in terms of the homepage and everything, any questions? And so what I want to also mention is that on the D2L homepage, the announcements that you see here are mostly posted by either the Taylor Institute or IT. Those are kind of information that would be relevant to most of the users at the university. So right now there's announcements for about final exams and the kind of the expectation in terms of like vaccination and the upcoming semester. So when students log in, they will see system announcements, and those are kind of released by a system administrator. So if you have announcements or important news items in your course, you will be adding them to your own course site. So the students would have to go into your D2L site to see those announcements. Okay. All right, so let's just go into the course itself and we'll start building. Okay, so to get into your course, again, as the instructor, you have access to it. Just in terms of how enrollments work for credit courses, I'll just quickly let you know the process. If you're teaching like an undergrad or graduate course, or maybe a continuing education course, instructor and student enrollments are handled automatically. So based on the registration system. And so you don't have to worry about manually adding or removing students. So those are automated, so you can focus on teaching. And in terms of your access, you need to be identified as the instructor of record for you to have access to the site. So once you're added to PeopleSoft or Destiny One, you should automatically be enrolled into the site overnight. In terms of TAs though, and I'll talk about how to manually add a TA, TAs need to be manually added, and that's up to the instructor to decide what kind of TA role they need. We have a couple of different TA roles and they have different types of access. So as the instructor, you get to decide like, what are you comfortable with having them do or assist you with in the course. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But let's just go into the course itself. And first thing is like, let's say first week of class, you probably want to have some announcements or maybe put a welcome message in the course. So to do that, like the news tool is kind of the announcement tool. So students would have to come into the course to see that announcement, and the course needs to be active. Otherwise, they can't access the course at all. I'll talk a little bit about notifications, how students can access additional updates on their end if they decide to, but let's just talk about how to add a news item first. And that's pretty straightforward. You just go create a news item. Okay, and you can say, I don't know, welcome to the course. And it's up to you if you want to display author information. If you're the only instructor, it doesn't matter, you can uncheck it. But let's say if you have multiple TAs or you're co-teaching a course, you may want to display that author information just so students know who posted that and they can ask that particular instructor for clarification. So there's some accountability there if you have multiple people teaching the class. And you can say, just welcome to the course. Instructor, blah, blah, blah. And then what you can also do is, like right now, I don't have any anything built into the course yet. But if I did have like, let's say an assignment or a course file, and I want students to go straight to that item without having to navigate through the whole course, there's this actually two different buttons. If you just, this is insert stuff. If you just want to insert an image, you can click on that, and like on your computer, you can upload an image if you want to do that. There's also this option that's called quick link. What that allows you to do is, like, if you want, you can like insert a URL, which is like, which points people to a website. So let's say I go learn.ucalgary.ca. I can have the same URL displayed, or I can have it shown as eLearn. And anytime you add a URL, bringing people to a website, I would suggest opening it up in a new window, just so students don't lose that D2L page and have to go back and forth. Open it up in a new window and insert. Sometimes it says open as external resource. It's the same thing. So have it opened up in a new window, you can insert. What you can also do is when you insert quick link, if I did have content, I want to bring people to a particular module or topic, I can go and select something there. Okay, so right now I don't have it, but once you have stuff, you can quick link, think of it as a shortcut. So, and for now, I'm just gonna leave it like that and go publish. Again, you can modify the availability and all that. You can have it automatically remove, but I'm just gonna just publish it for now. Okay. And so what happens is, if I go back to the home page, when students come in, they'll see the news item there. If there's a link, they can click on it. Now, usually what happens is, if you have announcements, students would have to actively come into the course to kind of read that. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's an option called notifications, and if you have like access to courses as a student or even as an instructor, you can go and just take a look too. So if you go to your profile, don't worry about the impersonating. I just have system admin access, so I can pretend to be different people, but in your case, you won't be able to impersonate. So let's just ignore all that, but take a look at notifications. This is where the user or the student can decide what kind of updates they get and how frequently. So when you click on notifications, you'll see that there's an app, kind of like information about the app here. So if you want, or if students want, they can download something called the Pulse app, which is an app on the iPhone or Android device where students can just download for free and access D2L that way. It just looks nicer. Students don't need the app to access D2L on their phones or mobile devices or tablets. They could just use the regular browser like Safari, Chrome, or Firefox, whatever browsers they have, and D2L is mobile responsive, so it will scale automatically anyways on their mobile devices. But if students want, they can still get the Pulse app, which kind of looks more, I guess, looks nicer. And there's, I guess the good thing about it is that it kind of shows you the deadlines and due dates more visually. So maybe that's an app that would be useful or helpful for students. So they can use that, but you can't control. So it's really up to them. What you can also do is, for example, students can add their phone numbers. So in this case, I just put in my phone number and I get to decide what kind of notification I get. So students can say, so like if they want a summary and how often. Some students don't want to be bombarded. Some want to be updated with everything. So it's really a personal choice. But you'll see here, if you put in your phone number, you can check off the SMS box where, let's say, for example, in this case, the person can sign up for like a text message and an email. So whenever there's like a news item posted by the instructor, not only will they be able to see that information within their course, they will also get a text or an email. So the reason I mentioned this is because like here you can see that students can sign up for like grade updates too. So what that means is that if you as an instructor puts in grades into D2L, for example, when you manually put in a grade, you may want to keep in mind that some students may have signed up for the notification. So in that case, what you may want to do is, and we'll talk a bit more about the grade book later, there's a setting that lets you control the visibility of the grade item. So if you don't hide it, what happens is if you put in grades, or when you make changes, updates, students may be updated on their end about any changes that you may be making. So in those cases, especially if you have a big class, you may end up with a lot of questions from students like, why are you changing my grades, and things like that. So in those cases, you may want to just kind of hide the grade item, finalize everything before you make the item available, just so you don't get all those extra questions. So that's something to keep in mind. And then if you, let's say you've taken a lot of courses in the past, you can exclude notifications and things like that. You can make adjustments there. But again, this tool is mostly for students and it's a personal choice, so you can't control anything. I just want to mention that. Yeah, so and then if they don't sign up for notifications, sometimes they can also see alerts right here. Okay. All right, so that's in terms of news items. So let's get into talking about the content, because you'll probably be adding course materials there, or at least course outline. D2L, it's not mandatory, but that being said, now that so many courses are being put online and it's a campus supported tool, most students expect you to put things there. So yeah, so I would say the most widely used campus tools would be like D2L, where students would access information, especially if like your class will be asynchronous. So you don't have a lot of Zoom sessions, or you don't see them a lot face-to-face. That's where students kind of expect you to put materials. So for the most part, you'll be using posting things under content. If you're using Zoom to host online classes, yeah, so that's another system, and you can actually create your Zoom sessions within D2L. We have another workshop on that, so but reach out if you need some resources ahead of time. But anyways, let's just go to the content section. So and before that, I'm just going to quickly mention just kind of the terminology. This bar here, it's called the nav bar, or navigation bar. So if you ever see documentation on nav bar, this is the thing we're talking about. And this is the course homepage, where these boxes are called widgets. So for the most part, you'll see that the nav bar should look pretty much the same for most courses, although there are some faculties that have decided to add shortcuts. So for example, there may be some faculties that have added a shortcut to like grades, or a shortcut to Zoom. If not, those tools are generally created under, or situated under a menu item, such as like assessments, where you'll find like grades and quizzes, or communication, where you'll see class list and discussions in Zoom. So, but for the most part, the nav bar would be pretty consistent, and that would be a good thing for students, just because like they may be taking many different courses and you don't want them to have trouble accessing the content, getting to tools that they need easily. Okay, so but if you really want, let's say there are things that you want to customize, you do have the ability to do so. But I would say don't put a lot of don't customize too much, just to prevent any kind of frustration or confusion. All right, but anyway, so let's go to the content. And the first time you go to content, it will probably you'll probably see the overview section. Instructors can put welcome message or the course outline there, but I think a lot of times this section is missed. So I would say, even if you decide to put the course outline there, it's always good to just like have everything, or like put that again in the table under the content area. Okay, so but for any content or files that you want to upload to the course, you go to table of contents, you'll see that before you can add anything, it says add a module. So think of adding a module as adding like folders, and it would be good to kind of take a look at your course outline. How are you going to be presenting your course materials? Is it going to be based on weeks, or based on themes and topics, or I don't know how you want to kind of organize your course. But let's say in my case, I just want to organize by weeks. I'll just say, give them titles. So think of modules as folders. So I'm just going to say week 1, and then I'm going to say course information. And I'm just going to kind of mess up the order of the modules on purpose. Okay, let's say I go week 3 before week 2. Okay, so I'll set up my folders first, but let's say I want to move things around. What you can do is, let's say I want to have course information first, you can kind of drag it to the top where it shows the line. So if you're moving modules and rearranging things, make sure it's aligned, because if, let's say, if week 2, I want to move it here, but if it's not aligned, so when it's aligned, it means you're moving it to that spot. But if you see that, it's kind of hard to see maybe on your end, but it's slightly blue. What happens is I'm making this into a subfolder, submodule. So you'll see that if I go to week 3, week 2 is a submodule. So unless you really want a subfolder or submodule, yeah, you don't want to do that. So let's say I want to take week 2 back out, just make sure it's aligned. Okay. Oops. And not very good at counting. So that's kind of how you organize your modules. If you really want, you can add some modules or subfolders, but I don't recommend having too much of that, just because, let me just say week 1 submodule, and then week 1 submodule 2. Like if you really want, that's how it's going to look like. Okay, but sometimes I find that the navigation is kind of hard, or if you have a lot of, like, for students to navigate, if you have a lot of submodules, they may get lost. But anyways, anytime you are lost or you want to collapse things, you can go to table of contents, and that kind of collapses it. And then you have to go to like week 1 to kind of see the submodules. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, if you go to course information, you could manually upload files. Okay, so if you want to just upload a file, you can go to new and then upload files. And then you can manually browse for your file. Okay, so you can say, let's say I'll just go D2L Essentials and just upload it here. And I'll go, just wait for it to think, and then go add. Okay. That's just a way to kind of manually add a file. And you'll see that D2L is smart enough to recognize what type of file you have. So like for common files like Word documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, you can upload it, or images or videos. D2L will kind of tell you and the students what kind of format they have. Okay. And then if you go into here, they can see it. It just kind of renders within. If students want, they can download it onto the computer. Okay, so let me just go back to the table of contents. Again, anytime you're lost, click on table of contents and go to content. Now, let's say week 1. What can I do? You'll see I have submodules, so I can manually upload something to the submodule. Let's say this one here, I kind of, I created those submodules, and I just want to delete it. I don't want to have to manually delete. What you can do is, if you have a module and you have uploaded a lot of things, there's a quick way for you to delete the entire module, which means that you'll be deleting a lot of like everything under that module. But before I do that, let me just quickly demonstrate. I'll just go to week 2. Let's just say I have 10 readings that I want students to read, and I don't want to have to manually upload something 10 times. What you can do is you can open up like Windows Explorer, or if you're on a Mac, Finder. What you can do is open sorry for the all my mess. I have a lot of random files. What you can do is let's just change it to details here. Okay, if you have 10 files or something that you want to batch upload, I'm just gonna go here, highlight, and then let's go here. I'll just select 3, and let's try a video too. Okay, you can drag and drop. Okay, so that way it's showing you how much is uploaded, and it's pretty quick, I would say, unless you have a huge video. And then once it's uploaded, you'll see that, okay, it's all right there. And again, you can see the kind of format. Now, by default, it takes the name of the file. Okay, so if you want to kind of change the title after, you can go to, let's say, this particular topic here, and then you can just change the name. Okay, I don't know, recipe or something. It's just a random file. So if you need to change the name, you can change it there. But by default, it takes the name of the file. Okay, so these are how you can batch upload files. If you need to move things around and drag it into another folder, you could. Now, let's just talk about how to delete. So if you want to manually delete a topic, you can go to that particular topic and then just go down to delete topic. Okay, so whenever you delete something, D2L is going to ask you a question. The first one I would say it's a safer option where if you delete, it's going to remove it from the table of content, but you as instructor get to keep that file in your course. So it's kind of, think of it as like a backup file online in the cloud. If you don't have access to it, let's say you don't have the USB or the file saved on your computer, or you need to have it backed up online, you can leave it as the first option. Then I'll show you how to access that if you want in the course after. But if you select this second option, it says permanently delete both from the topic, both the topic from content in the associated file or activity from the course. That means if you select this option, you're going to delete any traces or remove any traces of that from the course. So if you're really sure you don't want any confusion, especially if you plan on reusing the course in the future and you don't want like multiple versions, you can permanently delete, but make sure you're sure. Otherwise, if I just select this one here and I go delete, which one am I? I think that's the resume file, random file. Let's say if I delete it here, you'll see that it removes it from here. But as instructor, if you want to find that particular file, you can go to edit course, which is a control panel, and under manage files, you'll find that file that you have previously uploaded. So it's this one here if you want to kind of find that and back it up in your course. All right, so that's if you want to individually delete an item. But let's say I mentioned earlier, if you have a lot of stuff and then you actually don't want the whole thing, let's say week 1, I'm going to delete it completely. You can actually go to the module and can delete the module, which would delete everything under that module. Again, if you have a lot of files, they will be backed up. Otherwise, I can say permanently delete. Be really sure, and then you can delete. Okay, it has a warning that says it's irreversible. Okay, and so it will delete, and so now you'll see then I can maybe kind of start from scratch if needed and just move it up. Okay, all right, so a couple other things that you can add. Let's say instead of files, you may if you have a video, you can upload it this way. Otherwise, like you can still upload the video file. But I also want to mention this one here, video. You can upload, or what you can do is if you have a YouTube or Vimeo that you want to have embedded in the course, you can do that. So let me just quickly go to find a D2L video that I can use. Let's say this one here, a random one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy the link here. And if I go back to the D2L course, I can paste that link in here, and you'll see that it gives you a preview. And if I go to save, it embeds the video very nicely. So this works well for Vimeo videos or YouTube links. And so there's a question there. Can you create a module and make it available to students later? Yes, and I will demonstrate that in a second. Good question. So in terms of video, you can embed it like this. And if not, let's say if you want to give people the link, you can say create a link, and this is where you can go put in the URL and then YouTube video, and make sure it says open as external resource. So if they look at that video, they don't lose the D2L page. So and you can add other links too. Okay, so one is embedded, one is actually bringing people to that page, web page. Okay, it's gonna close that. Let's get back to table of contents. Let's go to week 1. If you want, you can also, there's something called create a file. It's not really creating a file, but I'll just show you what I mean. So let's say, I don't know, I'll just put stuff, okay? So you can just manually put in like text, so kind of like creating a web page. Or if you want, you can insert and embed other stuff. So using insert stuff, you can also embed code. Let's say you have a web page and you and somehow it gives you the code, you want to embed that content in there, you could. There's also something called Yuja, which is the video hosting platform that we have at the USC, University of Calgary. And again, we have another workshop, but you have like files that are larger or you're using captioning and additional resources, you may want to use UJET, but that's a different workflow. But yeah, create a file, just kind of think of it as inserting a web page. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that for now. I'll talk about the dates in a little bit, but what I want to mention is, let's say if you have, let's say this is course outline, okay? And you have a newer version of the course outline, what you can do is you can remove the file, or what you can do is you can change the file, okay? But if you do change the file, what I would recommend is before you upload, slightly change the file name. So for example, if initially it's called D2L Essentials 2021, you may want to rename the file as like updated or version 1, version 2 kind of thing before you upload, just so the system knows it's a different file. Now, if you did make the change on the computer, you didn't change the file name, but you're updating a new version and it's the same name. When you upload that file, D2L will ask you like, you have a file with the same name. Do you want to overwrite the existing file? You could say yes, and it will replace the file. It will replace a new version. But just so you can keep track of changes more easily, I would usually recommend changing the name of the file. The other thing is, because even if you tell the system to overwrite the original file, a lot of times what happens is not you. It's something that I like to say a lot. Like, it's not you, it's the computer. And it may not be your computer, it may be somebody else's browser or a computer. So for example, I tell D2L to overwrite the previous version, but what happens is, like, sometimes students may have access to the old version of the file on, let's say, in their own browser, like Firefox. Let's say they go in and they access a file and they go in again the next time, even though you have updated the file, sometimes their browser may remember old information. So in that case, they may not see the updated version. And that's because sometimes computers choose to remember things when they shouldn't. And so to avoid those kinds of situations where students may be seeing an old version, you may want to rename the file before you upload. Okay, so that's kind of best practice kind of thing. All right, so going back to the question, so by default, what happens is, if the course is active, anything that you add to the modules, they'll be visible or accessible by students. So you'll see kind of the open icon. Now, if you want to kind of control the visibility of a particular module, so for example, right now you'll see like that kind of tells you how many files there are or how many items. I'm going to switch to the student view, so to make sure I know which course. This one here, I think. If I go to, because the course is available, by default, I can see all those things, okay? Nothing is limiting my access. And so, but if I go in as the instructor and I say, okay, week 2, I don't want them to see it yet. What you can do is you can control the visibility of the module manually. So for example, if you just click on the eye and you go hide, so there's a close eye icon. So for you, there's an indication that says like hidden. Okay, when I go in as a student and I refresh the page, you'll see that week 2 is not available. Okay, so that's how you can manually control the visibility of the module. Let's say if I want to, let's say I have a lot of modules in the course and I don't want to manually do that every time. What you can also do is there's something called add dates and restrictions, kind of like the start date of the course. So in this case, it's start date for the module, where you can add a particular start date. Let's say I want it to be visible, I don't know, second week of classes. Let's say this one here, and then you can update. And so you'll see that when I go back to the students view, they may see the title of it, but they can't actually click into it to access the file itself. So it will kind of tell them it begins January 10th, and at that time they'll automatically be able to see it. So yeah, you get to control whether it's automated or you manually hide it and make it visible. Now I'm just going to cancel that for now. I just want to mention that there's also something called release conditions. I'm not going to go into detail, but it's something for you to explore further later on if you want. If you click on create release conditions, you can actually set release conditions. So for example, if I don't want students to be able to access this module and that until they have completed a quiz in the course. I can set it so I have to say, like, right now I don't have the quizzes available, but I can set it so I can have like a specific navigation path, especially if you want to control kind of like have more control over like what they see and what they need to accomplish first. You can also base it on multiple things or different things, such as like if you put them into a specific group, and so only students in that group can access that content. So you can do things like that. But yeah, that's a little bit more complicated, but I just want to kind of tell you there are some options like that. All right, so that's in terms of content. What I also want to mention is that there's this thing called add existing activities. So think of it as a shortcut. So again, right now I don't have anything built yet, but let's say I've built like online quizzes in D2L. I've built discussions where topics, and I want to get students to easily go there. You can build shortcuts. So add existing activities, you can point to specific sections in the course. So you can say week 2, they're supposed to do an assignment. So you can add existing activity to the Dropbox, which is another name for assignment, and then you can or link it to other places. So that's just to help with your navigation. Okay, but you need to kind of build those things, learning activities in the course before you can create shortcuts. All right, so that's that in terms of content. I'll quickly go to communication. Which is probably the second thing that you'll be frequently using if you're using D2L to communicate with people in the class. And so let's go to communication and class list. Okay. And so what you'll see here is that you as instructor will be able to see information such as the student's UCID number. So org defined ID is just another, the D2L term for UCID number. UCID number is the distinct or unique identifier of like students and staff at the university. Don't worry about my test accounts. Those are just my multiple personalities, but generally you'll see UCID numbers, which is a unique identifier. So even if you have students that have multiple, that have the same names, like I'm just going to use like John Smith. Let's say if you have multiple John Smiths in your class, you can see that their ID numbers are different. Okay. Now, because UCID number is supposed to be more private information, students, when they come to the class list, they can't see other people's UCID numbers. Okay, so they'll be able to see the name and email address because like students may need to collaborate with other people or other students. Now, information that might be also helpful to you as instructor. So depending on your role, you may or may not be able to see some of that information. So for example, as instructor, you can see last access. So like when this student or this person last access to the D2L course. And that would be kind of a good way for you to know as the instructor, like are students accessing your course? Let's say you have an in-person exam and a student hasn't performed very well on that exam. What you can do is come into the D2L course and see if they've accessed your course, because if they didn't access your course, they might be missing a lot of information. So in that case, you can kind of reach out to them and see if you can provide clarification and things like that. Now, if you want to add, email an individual, what you can do is, let's say, sorry, I have multiple accounts. Let's say I want to email Rex directly. I can go check off the box and go to email. Now, that's only if you want to email a few specific students and it's not a large group. You can use the checkbox. But if you want to email the whole class, especially if you have like more than 20 students, you may want to use a different option. The reason I say 20 is because by default, D2L shows 20 people per page. You can expand it to see 200. But even so, if you have a class of 200, you're going to have multiple pages just to see all the students. So in that case, the checkboxes won't work because every time you go to a new page, you're missing those checkboxes. I don't think the checkboxes register. So if you have a big class or you want to email the whole class instead of using checkboxes, use this email class list option. This button here, if you click on email class list, by default, it will include everyone in the class, so including TAs and other instructors. So right now I don't have a TA yet, but like by default, it includes everyone. So if you click on send email, it will automatically include everyone in the BCC field. So that way you don't have to worry about like emailing class and then you have students mass replying to everyone. So it's secure. It's BCC'd by default. By default, it also pulls the name of the course, so students know where it's coming from, but you can add like the subject title, edit it, and put in your message. I think it accepts a relatively, I don't know the file size, but like a normal size file. And then you can send. Okay, so let's say, now I don't want to spam everyone. So let me just I'll just quickly, let's say I just want to send it to a particular account here. Those two accounts, I can type in my message, test, and then send. Okay, so anytime you send a message through D2L, you'll get a copy by default in your own email account. So right now I already got notification that I sent an email and I got a copy in my inbox. Now, sometimes, especially at the beginning of the semester, because the class list may fluctuate a little bit, just because some students may be withdrawing from the course, or you may have new registration. So sometimes there might be a delay in terms of like when students show up in the class. Usually, if they register today, they'll show up in the class the next day. If they drop the course today, they'll disappear from the classes. So again, you don't have to worry about the adjusting the enrollments, but sometimes there might be a delay in terms of when students show up in the course. So occasionally, especially at the beginning of the semester, you may have a situation where a student say like, I never got that email that the rest of the class got. So for you to kind of troubleshoot and see like, did I miss them or like what happened? Because sometimes it's kind of like a he says, she says situation where you don't really know like what happened. So for you to kind of like try and troubleshoot, what I want to mention is you as the instructor, every time, or even students, every time you send an email from D2L, if you go to the envelope icon there and you go to email, it takes a few steps, and then sent mail, what you'll see here is that it will show you a record of messages that you have sent from D2L. So for example, here it will show the timestamp, and if you go into the particular message, it will actually record like who was BCC'd on the email. And so you can check to see if that student's email was included or not. Okay, if it was included, at least you have to timestamp, and you can be like, maybe check your junk mail folder, clutter folder, or whatever. But if they have the timestamp, they can at least go to IT and investigate further in case like something is wrong with their email account. But if you don't see their email here, then it's probably because you have missed them on the initial email. So that's just a quick way to troubleshoot. So yeah, so in terms of emailing, I would recommend using the email class list option if you want to just email everybody in the class. Okay, so and when you email, you should get a copy in your own inbox. But if you want just to be double sure, you can manually put in your email address here too. So if you want an extra copy. All right, so that's with sending emails. I just want to quickly mention how to add a TA. So in terms of TAs, they don't get automatically enrolled. So if you want somebody to help you, you would have to add them manually. So for example, here, if I want to add my TA, I go to add participants and add existing users. So your TA would have to be associated or affiliated with the University of Calgary, of course. So you can do a name search. I'm just going to use my Tyson, my colleague's name. I'm going to type it in. And if that person has a unique name, you can probably find them easily. But again, as I said, I don't know how many John Smiths are at the university. So it's best that like, if you do have access to the UCID number, like if they can give it to you or their UCalgary email address, then you can do a search for that and you can pinpoint like which person I should be enrolling. Because like if you have multiple John Smiths, you don't know who's who. So you would have to kind of ask them like, which one are you? But in this case, let's say I know that there's only one Tyson, then you can select the role. Okay, so you'll see that there are 3 TA roles. So TA full access most closely resembles the instructor role, where they can do most things similar to what you can as the instructor. So for example, they can add content, modify grades, and help you build the course. If the TA, you don't want them to be able to add content, you want them to only help with grading, you can give them a TA grading role. Okay, so it's kind of like they can't add content, but they can deal with grades. TA no grading means they can help you add content and build the course, kind of like a course builder role. but they can't access grades. So they can put in grades or change grades or look at grades. So depending on what role you're comfortable with granting them, but TA full access will mostly resemble your access. So once you selected that, you can click on enroll selected. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel for now. All right, so that's in terms of adding content, and adding people to class list and emailing so far. And let's just quickly talk about a few things. I won't go into details, but I just want to let you know that there are options available. So if you want students to engage in discussion, so let's say you have a topic and you want people to participate and talk to each other, or maybe like it could be like a coffee shop kind of forum where like people can ask questions, like frequently asked questions, and you don't have to like repeat the same thing and answer to individual emails. So what you can do is, and if you want, you can have it graded, but let's say I just want to create a forum where people can ask questions. So when you go to discussions and new, it will ask you to create a forum. So let's just say FAQs. Now, if you don't have multiple topics, so what D2L requires you to do is before students can post anything, you need to create a form and a topic. So there are kind of two levels. So if let's just say, if you just want a topic created with the same name, you don't have like different things for them to talk about, you can just check this box that says like create a topic with the same name. Then I don't have to manually create the topic. But let's say if, I'm just gonna not create the topic here, I can just go save and close. And then students won't be able to post anything yet. Okay, so you would have to manually add a topic. Let's say I have two specific topics that I want students to talk about. I don't know, about FAQs, about assignment. Okay, and then another topic about quizzes or something. Okay, so if students have specific questions about those things, they can go into the respective topic to talk. And so by default, if they reply, like here, you can start a new thread, which is a posting. I'm just gonna say test. Okay, you can post and people can come in here and reply. So by default, people can just come in here and see what's been posted. Okay, so especially if you have a large class, you may want to talk about expectations and etiquette and just being respectful before you use a discussion, because you just want to make sure it's a safe environment. So, but if they post something, everyone in the class will be able to kind of see and reply to it. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of discussions. If you want to explore it further, feel free to get in touch. There are also other things that you can do in D2L. So for example, quizzes, especially now if a lot of classes are being held online, you may want to create quizzes in D2L. So let's say I'll just quickly demo just so you know what's possible. Let's say I'll say quiz 1, just save it first. And you can add different types of questions. So if you go to add questions, you can have, let's say, a new question. You can see that there's like true or false, multiple choice, written response. So there are a few question types that can be auto graded. So for example, true or false, multiple choice will auto grade for you. And if you want, you can have it tied to the grade book in D2L, where it will just like, if like, let's say for the semester, you're going to have a couple of different quizzes and they're worth different percentages. You can set everything up in D2L. And have it auto-graded, okay? You can still have written response questions where they won't be auto-graded, but at least there's a way to keep track of all the answers, especially if you have a huge class. What I like about the D2L quiz is that it's got a good logging system. And so you can see like when students started, and you can enforce a time limit if you want. And so again, and I would say it's pretty safe. So questions like when students fill out the questions, as soon as they like make a choice, it will be auto saved. So I would say it's pretty safe. So you don't really have to worry about like they tried to make an attempt, but like nothing gets recorded. So I would say like there's a good logging system. And so, and it keeps track of you, keep tracks of things for you, like attempts and scores and everything online for you. And yeah, in a safe environment. So I'm not going to add questions now, but I also want to mention that like you can set restrictions to see like from what time to what time. So if you unhide it when you're ready, and you can say like they can start the quiz from like during this time period, but once they've started, you want to enforce like a 2-hour time limit, and then you can decide what happens after the 2 hours with the grace period. And you can also set special access where, let's say there's a student who needs accommodation, they need time and a half to complete the quiz, you can actually set special access here. Okay, so I would say it's pretty good tool, and then you can have it set so like upon completion they can see the grade, and the grades will be pushed to the grade book. So that's something that you may want to consider using. And then yeah, so and what else do we want to talk about? I'll just quickly mention about groups. Okay, so groups is, let's say if especially if you have like students taking the class online and you want them to work in groups and submit projects, what you can do is you can set up groups in D2L. So I'll just quickly set up a random one. New category, it forces you to create a category, but think of that as a project. So throughout the semester, you may have different projects. So I'm just going to say project A, and this is where you can decide how students are put into groups. Okay. So for example, I can have like groups of number of groups. Okay, I'll have the system do it automatically. Let's say 2 groups because I have a small class. And then you can decide, okay, any new people join, like registering for the class, they'll be automatically be put into groups. So you can decide some of those things. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set up groups first. And the groups can't really do anything, but you can also set up like Dropbox assignment at the same time, or group discussions. Usually I prefer doing it the other way, where I set up groups first and then I decide what I want those groups to do. So in this case, for example, I've set up the groups, and later on I can show you, like when we talk about the assignment feature, I can actually set it up as a group Dropbox or assignment where, let's say if you have like 2 students in that group, one person in that group can just submit the file on behalf of the group. Okay, and then when you mark the file and you give feedback, that mark and the feedback will go to the corresponding group member. So that way you don't have, as the instructor, you don't have to like collect the same file twice and put in the same score and feedback twice. So that helps you, I guess it streamlines the workflow a little bit to make life easier for you. Okay, so if you have like 10 members, you don't need 10 copies. They'll just submit once and then you mark it, and then that score or feedback will go to those 10 group members. Okay, so that's a pretty good tool. So that being said, I'm gonna go to 2 other things. I'll talk more about the grades feature and the Dropbox, which is the assignment feature. Now, in terms of grades, the grade book, I'm gonna give you a quick overview. It could be quite overwhelming, and I'm just gonna give a quick overview, but feel free to connect after, because it could get complicated, because it depends on what you want to show students, and if you plan on having online activities such as like Dropbox or quizzes or discussions, all tied to your grade book in D2L. So some of those associations we have to make or talk about first before we help you kind of decide how to set it up. But I'll just give you a quick overview. Anyway, so the grade book, you go to assessments and grades. The first time you get go to select grades, will probably land you on a page called Setup Wizard, which will ask you a bunch of questions and you have to make quick decisions. So I don't really like going through the Setup Wizard, just because you may not understand what it's trying to ask you. Sometimes the tool, it's a little bit weird in terms of how they call the things or settings of tools. So what I would suggest doing is as you want to set up grade, is to look at the grade scheme and the settings first. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go to the scheme page, schemes. And by default, you will probably just see something that says percentage. Okay, but depending on the faculty you're with, you may or may not see something like that. So in this case, like if you're teaching a faculty of social work class, you may see a grade scheme built in, or maybe faculty of arts, you may see like 4 schemes built in for, like, let's say history department, psychology department, English, and I think communication, media and film department. So some faculties have them built in, but some departments, I guess they can't really agree on something to be put into D2L. That's why you may not see it. If it's not there, you can still build your own, but that's assuming that you can kind of get those values from your department. Okay, so just to make sure that like the department still has something pretty consistent for you to use, so you don't have a lot of questions from students and asking you why this is different than another instructor scheme. But anyways, let's say if you have a scheme, what that means is that it's just a way for you to tell D2L what percentage corresponds to what letter grade. Okay, so for example, in this case, Faculty of Social Work, they have decided that starting from 98.5 to 100%, if the grade lands within that range, the person will be getting an A plus. Okay, if it's 85 up to 89.99999, it will be a B plus. Okay, so D2L doesn't do any rounding. Okay, so 90, if for somebody to get an A minus, it would have to start with 90. Okay, so it doesn't do any rounding. So this is where you can set up the range. Now, the assigned percent, I'll just quickly mention what that is for. Most of the time, this specific number won't be used. Okay, so if you're using raw scores, numeric numbers the whole time, D2L is going to use raw scores to calculate everything, and then at the end, it may look at like the range that it falls in between, and then it looks at the letter grade. Now, the only time this number is used is if you use something called the select box type. It's just a weird term in D2L. What that means is that instead of using, let's say for an essay assignment, instead of assigning students raw scores, you want to manually give them an A plus or like B plus. In that case, if you're manually selecting a box like A, B, C from the drop-down menu, then let's say if you select B plus, then it still needs a number to work with. And that's the number that D2L uses to do the calculations for that particular essay. But most of the time, if you're using numeric grade type, that number on the right won't be used. Okay, so that's quickly about this grade scheme. It depends on whether your department or faculty has one in place. The good thing about having a grade scheme built into D2L is that for final grades, you have to submit them to PeopleSoft, the faculty center. So for undergrad, graduate courses, you have to submit final grades in the form of a letter. Now, what I want to say is that the D2L gradebook is optional. But if you have a big class and if you have a lot of components online, I would say maybe try to build the gradebook here because it does the calculations for you. If you have the grade scheme, it converts it into a letter grade for you. So that way, there's a quick tool, which is a separate tool that allows you to export the letter grades in the form of an Excel file that PeopleSoft likes that you can import into PeopleSoft. That's where the final grades are supposed to go. So if you build everything in here, there's a quick process for you to kind of upload things to PeopleSoft so you don't have to manually put in like 500 letter grades. Nothing is stopping you from doing that, but it just saves you a lot of time and maybe potential errors if you can export and do that quickly. So if you do have a grade scheme in the gradebook here, it allows for, I guess, easier transfer of final grades. But again, the gradebook is optional. If it's too overwhelming or if you have a small class, don't worry about it. The other thing that's good is that you can kind of let students see their status, how they're doing in the course, so they don't have to wait till the end of the semester to find out how they're performing. Anyway, so once you've checked if you have the grade scheme or not, I would say go to settings. This is where you decide what you're seeing as the instructor and what you want students to see. So click on settings. This will set the default for the grade book. Okay. So username and org defined ID, they're the same thing, UCID number. So those unique student identifiers. So I would say you can keep one or both checked. So the first page, it says personal display options. That just decides what you would see as the instructor. Okay, so it just doesn't determine what anybody else sees. It's just you. Okay, so if you want, you can see all those components, but I'll just quickly explain to you what those mean. If you want, you can see all of them, but I would say maybe it's good to adjust the student view, which is the next tab. So I'll just talk about what this means. So let's say if you have an assignment, it's out of 50, seeing the grade would mean that you want to see a score out of 50, okay? Or if the score is out of 100, you'll see a score out of 100. Weighted grade, it just means like they will, like if you check that off, it will also show you like how much is worth in the course and what that percentage is. So for example, I have an assignment. it's out of 100, but it's worth 20% of the course, you can also see a value out of 20, okay, for that particular component. Grade scheme symbol, it's a weird term in D2L. What it means is either the percentage or the letter grade. So remember we looked at the grade scheme earlier. If you have the grade scheme in terms of a letter, you can see that information. If you don't have a grade scheme like letter grade, then grade scheme symbol would just mean percentage. Okay, so if you have a grade scheme, you can decide what you actually will see, like either the percentage or the letter grade, but that's pretty much what it means. The grade scheme color you probably won't have unless you have, like, when you set up the grade scheme, you identified like 0 to 49%, it's like pink. Then in the grade book, you can kind of see like maybe it's easier for you to visually see how students are performing, but usually you don't see the color. If you have that checked and you don't have the color, you don't see additional information. So usually I would say it's okay if you want to see all that information. So if you make changes, click on save. Now, the next part is important. So this is where you decide, okay, org unit display, think of it as a student display. Okay, so if you do make that grade item visible, what students would see on their end. So don't worry about the decimal places. When D2L does the calculations, it uses a whole string of decimal places or a whole string of numbers. So it doesn't do any rounding for you. This one here, it just says like, when you show it, how many numbers like do you see, like decimal places you see? And I would say keep it at 2 by just use the default. Don't try to change it to 1 or 0, because what that means is that it will show students a rounded number. But so in that case, sometimes students, when they try to do their own calculations, they're using a rounded number to do the calculations. But remember, D2L uses a whole string of numbers. So try not to show a rounded number just to avoid those kind of discrepancies. It doesn't happen a lot, but like just to avoid those kinds of issues, leave it at 2. But the main important part is this: what do you want students to see? So I would say if you do make the grade item visible, you probably want to show them the score, okay, raw score. Weighted grade, I would say probably not important to show them, like if it's worth 20% of the course, they'll also see like something out of 20. So it's up to you. I usually would say like maybe, yeah, too much information for them to see, and sometimes you may have additional questions. So uncheck that one. Grade scheme symbol, again, like if you want them to see the percentage or a letter grade, if you have it, you can keep that. So grade scheme color, whether you have it or not. So let's just say I make a change, I want them to see just the main score and the percentage or letter grade, keep that, and then just go save. The last tab is the calculation options, which allows you to tell D2L how do you want the calculations done. And usually when you see the recommended settings or the default settings, those are usually the ones that work pretty well. Of course, you can adjust, but usually the weighted system would be good, and we'll actually set up grade items in a little bit. All right, so this is where you can say like it's worth 20% of the course, whatever. Final grade released. This one here, there are 2 options. The default is calculated final grade, which means that based on the weighting you have put into D2L, D2L will do the calculations for you, and it will like convert it into a letter grade if you have the grade scheme. Adjusted final grade will require you to do extra things. D2L will still calculate for you, but if you want to adjust the letter grade a little bit, let's say a couple of students who want to bump up the grades a little bit for whatever reason, you have the ability to kind of just push all the grades over and make those adjustments if needed. But I would say like at the start of semester, it's probably just best to just use the calculated grade. And then you can decide later on if you want to adjust, then you can do that. But there are a couple more steps that you would have to go through if you do adjust the grades. So usually the defaults would be good. And also this one here, drop ungraded items, and it's a recommended setting. I don't recommend changing it to treat ungraded items as 0, at least not at the beginning of the semester or mid-semester, because what happens is if you set this here, you're going to start with the whole class failing, because if they haven't done anything yet, and you've set up the grade book, D2L is going to assign 0 to everything they haven't done. Okay, so I don't recommend doing that. I would say drop in graded items, just so like even you as the instructor, you can see the current standing based on how much work they've done. You can kind of see how well they're doing. So try not to have the zeros auto-populated until at the end of the semester. Maybe like if anyone has missed something and they don't deserve, like they don't have a valid reason, then they deserve a 0. You may want to plop all those zeros in if you have a huge class. But for now, just drop in graded items. You go save and close, or if you're not making any changes, we'll go close. Now, once you have check the settings, you can start putting in grade items. So I would say maybe if you do have your course outline and you know what components you're going to have, try to set up the gradebook. Just so if you set up like assignments later on, you can link it and you don't have to like worry about setting up the gradebook later. So I'm just going to quickly set up a couple of things. So let's say here, item, if you're using raw scores, you can say numeric. So I'm just going to say maybe assignment 1. Okay. And this is where you can say, okay, it's out of 100 worth like, I don't know, 20% of the course. Okay. And then other settings, you can, let's say if you want them to see the grade scheme symbol, but you want them to see a letter grade instead of percentage, you can do that. But for now, I'm just going to say save and close. What you'll see here is that there's an item, and usually it will tell you it doesn't add up to 100. So even if it doesn't add up to 100, it's fine, but usually it just makes sense when all the components in the course add up to 100. It just makes everything like easier that way. Let's say I want to add other items. So for example, I mentioned the essay earlier. So in this case, instead of assigning raw scores, I want to manually assigning ABC. So I can say select box now, and I'll go essay. And then I'll still say out of 100 just to keep it simple. I say 25% of the course. Okay, and it's using the social work grade scheme. So based on that right-hand side column aside value that I've shown you earlier. Okay, so you'll see there are different types, and you'll see adds up to 45%. Now, what I'm going to say is that if you're going to be manually entering in like grades and you're going to be doing grading over time, I would suggest like hiding the grade item. That way you can kind of finalize things before students will see them. Because remember, there are some who may have signed up for the notification. So I'm just going to hide this here. If I want to enter grades, I can still enter grades, but students can't see it yet. So if I go to enter grades, what select box type means is that you're actually selecting ABCs. Okay, so I'm just going to say ABCs right now. If I make all those changes, sorry, my class is not doing very well. Let's go save and close. Students don't see it, but let's say I have finalized it. So there are two views. So enter grades, manage grades. You can always switch between those two. I kind of like manage grades when I set up the grade book, so I can see what associations there are if I did link it to the course. But in terms of entering grades, you may want to go to the enter grades page, which kind of shows you a spreadsheet view with all the items. So if you want to enter grades that way, it's easier. So you don't have to go into the particular item. Okay, so let's say this one here, if I've finalized it, I can make it visible to users. So I'm just going to quickly add and one more item. So let me do my math. Okay, let's say final exam. I'll say numeric item is final exam, and I'll say it is out of 50 and worth 55% of the course. So probably not a very good distribution in this case, but it's just, yeah, just a random case in this case, okay? Just so you know, like, okay, now it adds up to 100, that warning disappears, okay? So I just want to mention that the individuals that you add, you kind of like, you have to manually decide if you hide or not. By default, I think it's not hidden unless you hide it, okay? Whereas the final grades, final calculated grade or final adjusted grade, by default, they're not visible to students. So just think of it, and I don't like how D2L doesn't show you the symbol, so that's one thing I don't like, but just the safer situation where like final grades, they're not visible. You have to take extra steps to kind of release the final grades, okay? But these ones you'll see if, look for that symbol, you decide if it's available or not. If I go to switch the enter grades page, you don't actually see the individual items, whether they're visible or not, but you'll see the final grades. It has that released or not released symbol. So it's another closed eye icon. So that's just one thing I don't like. It's the view may not be very consistent. Anyway, so you'll see it as I put in stuff, it automatically calculates some things like the grade for me already. Okay, so now last thing I'm going to show you is, and I'm sorry I'm running behind, and again, feel free to leave and watch a recording later. Thank you for being here. So last thing I'm going to show is the Dropbox, which is the assignment feature. Okay, when nothing to do with the Dropbox.com hosting or file sharing utility. So Dropbox is the assignment, so it calls it folder. So when you create an assignment, you just click on new folder and give it an assignment name. Now I'm going to quickly open up, let me just go back to D2L, open up a new page in that course so I can show you the grade book here. Now, whenever you try to link things, especially like Dropbox or quizzes in D2L, try to keep things consistent. So for example, here I set assignment 1, and I want to build that assignment 1 as a place in D2L to keep track of things. Try to have things consistent. So for example, here out of 100, I want to try and keep the out of score consistent. So for example, and the name. So for example, assignment 1, I've set up the grade item already. So let's say when I create the item, I'll give it the same name just so I can tie things and know things are connected. Okay, so this is where you can say grade out of. So because I said grade book out of 100 already, I want it to be consistent. Okay, if it's not consistent and you link, let's say you put 50 here and the grade book, it's 100 and you link them, D2L is smart enough to do the calculations and conversion for you. So let's say if a student got 50 out of 50 here, when you push the grade to the grade book, it will show 100 out of 100. But to avoid those like situations where you have to do complex math, for me, it will be complex, just to keep everything consistent. Here, you'll see that this is called the new assignment creation experience. So if you've used D2L before, you may have seen a different interface, but at the end of December, I think everyone will have this view. So we're going to just focus on this new creation and assignment experience. If you want to quickly switch between the old view and the new view for now, this month, you still have the option to. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it on just so you can compare. But let's just stick with the new view. If you have created the gradebook already, what you can do is you can edit and link to existing, and you link to, make sure you say link to an existing item. This is kind of confusing because when you click on in gradebook, it will automatically create a new column with that name. But if you have that grade item already, you link it to an existing item, you choose from there. So here I'm linking it to the assignment 1, and then I'll click on OK. So now I know that things are linked. Just a couple of things, you can set the due date. Now the due date is kind of the soft deadline where I can say it's due January 3rd, 11:59. This is the soft due date, which means that if you if students submit after that date, they will still be able to submit and upload. Although the system will flag it as late, but you as the instructor, you get the option to say if they get a penalty or not. Okay, so due date is a soft deadline, where if you click on here, you'll see that start date, if you don't specify the start date, as soon as you have the assignment, they can start submitting. End date is a hard deadline, which means that if you set, let's say the 4th, that date, that means that after that time, they won't be able to upload anymore. So that's the kind of the hard deadline. Okay, students on their end, they won't be able to tell if it's soft deadline or a hard deadline. Okay, so even if you just put an end date, you don't have anything here, they'll just see the due date as that time. Okay, so one is soft, one is hard. Okay, anyway, so I'm just gonna keep it, I'm just gonna clear that. Let's say after that point, I don't want them to be able to submit anymore. So that's what you can set. You do have the ability to give like certain people an extension or extra time to do it if you need to. Submission and completion, by default, it would be an individual assignment. But like I said earlier, if you have group work, you can set it as a group assignment based on those groups that you have previously set up. Okay, so that way only one member needs to submit something. But for now, I'm just going to say individual assignment, and what you can do is like decide what kind of submission. So by default is that they have to upload a file. Okay, but if you want, you can change it to text submission where they can only type in text, or you can say on paper or observed in person. Those two are kind of the same, which it's just makes life easier for you. Let's say it's an in-person presentation. Students don't actually have to submit a file, but you want to be able to kind of give them feedback and kind of track completion. You can just select one of those. And so students don't need to submit a file, but you can keep track of their work. But for the most part, if you are expecting something, say file submission, and then you can decide how many files they can submit. So you can say only one file, or you can say unlimited. And if you will keep all the submissions, or they can only have one submission. So usually I would say maybe like you may want to, just so you don't have to like keep track of so many files, you can say one file. That's assuming they only need to submit one file. And then you can say maybe the most recent submission is kept. That way, if they have submitted the wrong thing, they can submit again, and you will only be seeing the most up-to-date version. So you don't have to keep track of 10 copies, but it's really up to you. Okay. And lastly, you can see evaluation where, if you have a rubric, there's something you can build into D2L and just have some kind of like consistent evaluation. But otherwise, we can just leave it and go save and close. Okay, so I know it's past 12. You can just give me a couple minutes again if you need to leave. That's totally fine. Thank you for being here. So I'm just going to go as a student just so you can see how it looks like. So for students to submit assignments, they go to Dropbox. And I like the Dropbox because it keeps track of, again, it has a good logging system. So for the student, I go to here and I upload a file. Okay, and what I like about this is, let's say I submit a file. I'll just say this one here. I upload the file and I say submit, and I'll confirm. What happens is when I confirm, it will say here when I submit it, and it also automatically sends me an email to confirm that I have submitted that assignment. Okay, so I would say this is a good tool because like that way they get confirmation on their end. And you don't have to keep track of like all the emails, like students submitting files through email. Okay, everything is like kept in D2L, so you can see the logs. If you don't see it, most likely they haven't submitted it. And you can also ask for like, can you produce a copy of that email confirmation that you got, that you were supposed to get? If they can't produce that, then most likely they didn't submit it. So that's a good way to kind of like keep track of files. And now let's go back to the instructor view. And so you'll see how many people have submitted and to evaluate. So you can go to view submission. So by default, it shows those students who have submitted. Okay. So it shows those who have submitted. If you want, you can show like people who have not submitted, and you can kind of see who they are and send a quick gentle reminder. It lets you send an email to them to remind them. Okay. But by default, it shows those who have submitted the file. If you want to evaluate, you can go to evaluate. And then there are a couple of ways to give feedback, okay? So one way is, let's say if you click on the file, there's an annotation tool, which allows you to kind of like draw. In my case, it doesn't make a lot of sense, or you can add like a comment like this, I don't know, section or something, okay? So, or you could put in text comment, and you can also upload a file with feedback. Let's say you downloaded their Word document, you've enabled like tracking, and you want to upload the file, you can do that. You can also give them a score. So in this case, remember I have it tied to the gradebook, so I can say they get 80 out of 100. I'm just going to save draft. Okay, so you can, I would say if you have a lot of assignments to look at, just to save draft first. And then once you've marked all the assignments, you can kind of publish all the grades and feedback at the same time for all students. That way you don't have some students asking you like, like how come they get feedback and I don't? So just to make sure like maybe everyone is seeing things, their own stuff, their own feedback and grades at the same time, you can save and then you can publish later. Now, in terms of feedback, I would say just sticking with like 1 or 2 types of feedback. Don't try to have like annotation and then text comment and then a file, or you can even record, just because like if you have so many types of feedback, sometimes it's easy for students to miss those different types of feedback. If you go to the eLearn site and type in like Dropbox, here, let me just go to, I'll actually demonstrate it here now. But if you go to eLearn and you type in Dropbox feedback, there's like a screenshot that shows you like how feedback shows up. Now you'll see that if like 10 students have completed the stuff and you have saved draft, nothing gets pushed to the corresponding grade item when it's saved as draft, okay? And students can't see anything. But let's say I've marked everything and I want to batch publish things. So again, if you have a lot of students, you may have to go one page at a time. But as soon as I go publish feedback, I will ask you to confirm. What happens is students will be able to see the feedback and the grades on their end. So for example, if I go back to the courses student now to the Dropbox page, I go to Dropbox, then I will see my grade here and it will say feedback. So you'll see that if I go to unread feedback, depending on how you've put feedback, text comment is here, score is here, view inline feedback would be the annotation. And if you have additional files, then you'll see additional stuff. So that may not be very convenient for students if you have multiple types of feedback. So just try to be consistent. You can also attach it with a rubric, which would allow them to see that here too. Okay, so that's in terms of Dropbox. And lastly, I just want to show you right here, again, it has a good logging system. I can see when students have submitted it, the timestamp and everything, what they have submitted. So everything is kind of here. And also what happens is if I go back to the grade book, so grades, what you'll see here is that if you go to manage grades, anytime you've linked something to like an online activity, learning activity in D2L, whether it's Dropbox or quizzes, it will tell you under association. So you can see that things are tied here. If you actually want to delete the grade item, you kind of have to disconnect and then remove things here, or you can reorder your grade item. So that's kind of how it works. And you'll see that if I go to enter grades or even go into that particular column, you'll see that the person that I have added feedback and score for, the grade is actually pushed over here. So I don't have to manually put in that grade again. So when I publish, it also means push that grade to the corresponding grade item. Okay, so that's a good way to kind of look at things. If you do a manual, like an in-person exam, you manually need to put in grades, you can type it in there. Sometimes if you can't type it in there, you just have to, it's just a matter of switching the view. D2L gives you kind of like a collapsed view and a spreadsheet view. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry I'm going over time and taking up your lunchtime. I'll stick around for questions. And if you do have a moment, I invite you to fill out this survey, and I will also send that link in a follow-up email along with the slide. So thank you very much for being here today. Stay safe and take care.